The Excelsior II class, the successor to the greatest class of starship in Star Trek history. The ship that we first met in Star Trek III that was just sitting on the other side of space dock being better than you. If you earned the rank of Admiral, you get to fly around in one of these and do whatever the f you wanted. Go back and check out any highfalutin Admiral that showed up. He came cruising along in one of these. It wasn't just a starship, it was a status symbol. If you're a man who values well-groomed fingernails, you're an Excelsior man. If you think you know what's best for the Federation, be damned Starfleet regulations, you're an Excelsior man. Even Sulu, who we knew for decades, there was just something different about him when he was given the center seat in one of these. He was an Excelsior man. You know you're worth something when you have Roman numerals in your name. The Excelsior II first appeared in Star Trek Picard Season 2 when it was confronting a Borg threat, which turned out to be a Borg alliance. Then we see it again in Season 3 when it was confronting a Borg threat that turned out to be lazy writing. While the Excelsior II class only appeared on screen for a few brief seconds, like so many other things in Star Trek history, there's a lot of intentionality behind its design.
In this video, we'll dive into its backstory, design, and how it compares with the rest of the fleet. 3 artists, each of whom were the lead designer on separate Starship enterprises, collaborated to design this new Excelsior.
You're about to watch a video about a spaceship that only appeared on screen for a few seconds in a show that most people didn't really like. From this point on, you've only got yourself to blame. This is the USS Excelsior, the next generation. The Excelsior II class made its debut in Star Trek Picard Season 2. If you need a refresher, Star Trek Picard is a show about a man named Star Trek Picard who went on a journey to save his android best friend, only to kill him in the process and become an android himself. We pick up Season 2 at Starfleet Academy, where the VFX budget was recently cut and Picard is giving a commencement speech. We first hear of the ship by name when it's called over the intercom while cadets are receiving their starship assignment. Season 1 character Elnor is assigned the USS Excelsior. He's the Romulan warrior from Season 1 who was fast-tracked through the Academy in a single year.
The same thing happens in Season 3, so it's not that big a deal.
Yep, I'm definitely a Constitution class man.
Later, Star Trek Picard is summoned to an ominous space portal. He's done this like 100 times, so he's the perfect guy for the job. They receive an encrypted distress call, which is the worst way to send a distress call. It's seemingly a Borg invasion. A bunch of other starships show up, all warping in from the same direction and stopping on a dime.
Exactly like they do in every other modern Star Trek show, as if inertia's just not exciting enough.
The new Excelsior is among this armada. Seven reminds everyone that the Borg are ruthless killers, and we're reminded the writers don't remember Season 1. A Dr. Octopus Borg Queen shows up and hijacks the fleet. They say she's assimilating the fleet.
He's getting complete access, weapons, navigation, everything.
She's assimilating this ship.
But that's like saying a thief is trying to assimilate your car. Dr. Borg Octopus Queen begins playing some eerie old French song, which is something that Star Trek Picard associates with Mom Trek Picard, who died tragically when he was a child, leading to lifelong trauma. We later learn that the Borg Queen is Picard's old buddy Agnes Girardi, and she was playing the song to calm him down.
We hoped it would calm you now.
There is probably better ways to go about that. After the general reception of Season 1, you could feel the showrunners trying to right the ship by making things feel more like Star Trek, and that includes the ships. The creative team consciously wanted starships that played to Star Trek's legacy, and the Excelsior was the perfect ship to do that. The new Excelsior is nearly identical to the original, but it's still clearly a new design. It's the most used starship class in the franchise's entire history. We'll take a closer look at its appearance in a few minutes. The Excelsior class makes its final appearance, at least to date, in Star Trek Picard Season 3. It's among the ships at Earth commemorating Frontier Day. What's a Frontier Day? It's the anniversary of the launching of the NX-01 Enterprise. Or rather, the day that humans botched a critical first contact, sowing the seeds of a galactic conflict that would eventually escalate to a devastating war. Anyway, stuff happens and the entire fleet is assimilated by the Borg. The Excelsior crew manages to regain control of the ship long enough to be destroyed by a few other ships, including the USS Hikaru Sulu, which stings,
and the USS Intrepid, which appears to be doing A-OK after being nearly destroyed on the other side of the galaxy 2 episodes earlier. After straying pretty far from the Star Trek vibe in Season 1, the creative team prioritized featuring an updated version of a legacy ship in Season 2. This ended up being the USS Stargazer, also the USS Excelsior. At this point, the Excelsior was going to play a bigger role in the season. Design duties fell on legacy Star Trek artist John Eaves. Eaves has played a critical role in linking the visual language between classic and modern Trek. Eaves was partially inspired by the original Excelsior when he designed the Enterprise E. This time, he used the Enterprise E as partial inspiration for this evolution of the Excelsior design. He started off by giving the ship a similar elongated oval saucer. Starfleet ships are like the Taco Bell menu. Everything's made from the same 6 ingredients. There's only so much you can do with the same configuration of a saucer, secondary hull, pylons, and nacelles. The new Excelsior is very close to the original. Just like that one, he gave it a flat secondary hull that billowed downward. That long flat surface is interrupted by an egg-shaped oval piece that branches out into compact angular pylons connected to 2 long thin nacelles. He also retained the classic Excelsior compact ribbed neck, though he gave it more dimension by adding this dual spine structure to it. He toyed around with having a shuttle bay there. Though the original Excelsior kept its photon launchers there, the Enterprise B, also designed by Eaves, seemed to have shuttles exiting that same area. On the flip side, he designed the rear ventral side of the ship as a near one-for-one with the original. The design came together fairly quickly. There was a brief discussion about the ship looking too much like the Enterprise E, but Taco Bell menu, why wouldn't they look alike? And they pressed onward. When it came to the nacelles, it made sense to use the same nacelles as its contemporary, USS Stargazer. In-world, it makes sense since they would employ the same technology. In real life, it makes sense to reuse model parts to save time and money. That's what's known as kit bashing, when existing model parts are rearranged to make new designs, and not to be confused with the kit bashing.
Is that you, Michael? You look like crap. You've obviously gone down the toilet since we split up, Michael. Get a life.
The problem with the Stargazer nacelles is that it just didn't work with the elongated proportions that Eaves wanted. At this point, Sean Hargraves came aboard to work on the 3D model. Hargraves was the principal artist on the Enterprise A from Star Trek Beyond, which is the most recent Star Trek movie if Paramount scrubbed Section 31 as a tax write-off. He made a pass using the Stargazer nacelles, but it just didn't work for the look that they wanted. Eaves came in for a revision where he simply drew over the computer model. The idea was to use the Stargazer's visual language, but flatten it and stretch it out to maintain that classic Excelsior profile. Hargraves would later leave the production and be replaced with fellow legacy Star Trek artist Doug Drexler, who had also designed his own Enterprise. He continued work on the nacelles and added the finer exterior detail across the rest of the model. Once done, the VFX team took the design the rest of the way to what we see on screen. But by this point, script revisions meant that the ship wouldn't play as important a role as first intended, and it was relegated to only a few flyby shots. But even then, it was still apparent that a lot of attention had gone into its design. If you're enjoying the video, a quick like on your end helps a lot on my end. And if you'd like to see this video fast-tracked through the Academy in a single year, consider subscribing.
Shut the
Now let's take a look at the finished design. It's the cleanest, most elegant design of the modern era. They gave it the registry NCC 42037, which is an odd choice considering that each new Enterprise gets to keep 1701, and the Excelsior itself has its place in history. Why not give it NCC 2000A, B, some emoji? It just doesn't look like a 4237 to me. Here's a side-by-side view of the new and old designs. It's larger than the original, but not by as much as you would think, considering how Star Trek ships always seem to get larger with each new iteration. The oval saucer taken from the Enterprise E is also used on the new Stargazer. They also share a lot of the same surface detail.
Among other things, the Excelsior 2 carries over the 4 impulse exhausts from the original refit Excelsior. And here's a better look at the rear neck, which has that dual-spined forked look. And here's the profile of the pylons and nacelles. On the bottom of the ship, it's a near perfect match. On the original Excelsior, this dorsal hood is where they hid these 2 tiny executive shuttles, first seen in Star Trek 6. On the new Excelsior, it's where they hide the typos. Now let's take a detailed look at the interior. And this is all we see. During the Season 2 Green Space Portal Borg threat, we see another class of starship floating around. The Inquiry class, or the USS Zheng He, which was introduced in the Season 1 finale, which was the episode immediately prior to this one. It was the only new Starfleet ship that we had seen up to that point. There was a threatening space portal that Star Trek Picard was there to deal with. A robot octopus was trying to get through, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Which you might think is what's happening now, but there's one key difference. This one's red. A Romulan armada shows up to destroy it, which seems like the only sensible thing to do. Then Riker shows up with an armada of his own. Just like the Romulans, they come zipping up from the same direction and stop on a dime. He's rolling in the USS Zheng He, and an armada of the same ship copy-pasted a few dozen times. He said they're the toughest, fastest, most powerful ship that Starfleet had ever put into service. I don't think that turned out to be true. I've got a whole video on it. The Zheng He stands in stark contrast to the Excelsior. Whereas the Excelsior was carefully designed to be featured prominently before plans changed, the Zheng He was hastily designed when there was a last-minute rewrite to feature a new starship right there front and center. Since they're contemporaries, here's how they compare. Because it was designed so quickly, it's not nearly as detailed as the Excelsior, which again highlights the attention that went into the Excelsior 2 class. Given the proportions, it appears to be a much smaller ship, but
this is fantasy.
This is actually how they compare according to numbers that people just made up. The Excelsior 2 class isn't the only new take on the classic design that's shown up in recent years. On lower decks, the original Excelsior class was chosen to make an appearance as a featured ship in the Season 2 finale. Though, once they started working through the logistics of numbers that people just made up, they realized that they needed a much larger ship, and thus the Ubina class was designed. Drop a like if you'd like to see that ship get the same video treatment as this. But to quickly summarize, the Ubina class, just like the original Excelsior, was a top-tier vessel assigned to important missions like First Contacts. Though, as we saw in the episode, even the mightiest of starships are never safe from the threat of The Excelsior 2 class would later be added to Star Trek Online, a game that, just like this video, is still going somehow. All the likes, comments, and subscriptions are what keeps this channel going. So thank you to those who have done that. I'd also like to thank these well-groomed fingernails for helping support the channel on Patreon. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video.
This is the approaching asteroid. Everyone on this planet will die.